And Brother Pablo is still 4 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
We
because
usually
I'm making a listing of
Get
something I
out
want to
of
hit
your
a comment in
comfort
after.
zone. In life there will be challenges, testing whether you weak or strong. So don't let obstacles deter you. Just shake up yourself and move on. I tell you. Out of your comfort zone. You know that life is a mixture of the good, the bad, and ugly. So don't stress yourself over issues that won't change your reality. I tell you. Out of your comfort zone. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have greatness in you. Yes, you have greatness in you. I know that you have greatness in you. Oh, oh, you have greatness in you.
Yes, you have greatness in you, Brother John. Yeah, you surely do have greatness in you. The way that you're overcoming this challenge. Brother Roberts, welcome to the comfort zone.
It's a blessing
And
to
I
be
want
here.
to say good afternoon to our listeners, those who have joined us already. Please share the live and encourage others to join the conversation here this afternoon. This is Raphael Paul Pablo, the host of the Comfort Zone. And I always like to say, extend my gratitude to Brother John Calise for allowing me this opportunity to be presenting this program every Saturday afternoon on GEM FM, a platform established and functioning from all the way over in Canada. And I'm sitting here on Diamond Street in Victoria, Sunset City. And we have a very special guest with us, but we'll be getting to him shortly. Those of you who are live, you can see him in the mix there. And so, before I get into the conversation with our special guest for today, I want to remind people about an event that I have been speaking about for some time now, and I did speak about it last week with our then guest, Dr. Patrick Antoine, the leader of the Grenada movement, and it is the St. Mark COVID-19 essay competition. And it is an essay competition that is divided in different categories: 7 to 9 year olds, 10 to 12-year-olds, and 13 to 15-year-olds. And each category had to do an essay on COVID-19. They all had their particular topics under that heading. And last week, Friday, was the deadline for submission. And from there, it goes now to the assessors. We have some teachers, both retired and active teachers, that will be assessing the submissions to determine the first, second, and third in the three categories. And we shall be given prizes in each of the three categories. And anyone else who would have submitted something is going to be compensated for their effort. So I did speak with the TGM leader and I said, well, we would like you to contribute to that. And that very evening, I had a call from one of his associates saying, well, we're following up with you on that commitment given by Dr. Patrick Antoine. And I want to say thank you in advance for such a prompt response. And we're looking forward to a significant contribution from you, the TGM. So I want to say that we're still looking for, we're still accepting contributions, because this is about the essay competition is one component of it, but we are also endeavoring to establish an IT unit in this community. And just this morning, I was speaking with a gentleman we had not seen for quite some time. He's a gentleman from this community. but he goes to and fro between Grenada and England. He's someone that's been involved in training young people and so at different levels. And I met him this morning by accident. And we had a conversation and he remembered me by name. I, telling you the truth, I didn't even remember the gentleman's name, but I remember him on sight. He said, I remember we had this conversation some time ago and so, but I'm still committed to assist in that regard. So there are people out there who are committing. There are people out there who have committed. And we're expecting some contributions coming from overseas. In fact, there's a gentleman who came in from England and I met him earlier this week and he would have contributed. So you can still reach out to many of the local people. The teachers who are involved in that are people that are well known, Mr. Bristol and Teacher Tikima and Teacher Fossil and Shad Noel. He is at the School for Special Education down in St. George's, down in the Grenada area and so on. These are people who are committed to the development of the community. And we need people to make these kind of commitments in order for you to see our community really growing and, advancing in the way that we need to. We need to, from time to time on this platform here, because apart from the comfort zone, you have the talking point. Last night was a major conversation taking place there. And we speak about a variety of issues that has to do with the development of our communities and our countries. And the whole issue of people committing to volunteer and to help to build other people and to help to contribute in whatever way that they can to ensure that the community, functions at a level that is satisfactory. And we don't have to just complain about the shortcomings, but let's make an effort to do what we can in whatever little way that we can to ensure that people can get out of their comfort zones, because in your comfort zone, you ain't growing. You're not doing anything of consequence because you're restricting yourself. You are not exploring. You are not expanding. And in order for you to do that, you have to get out of your comfort zone and get into the comfort zone. This is where you're experimenting. This is where you're exploring new frontiers. Okay? So I would hope that people can reach out and continue to contribute to the development in their communities. All right? Yeah, that was a mouthful. Anyway, at this point in time, hey, Brother John, let's take a short break and we come back to our guests and I'll share with our listeners, our viewers. We take a short break with a song from Black Stallion, which says that we can make it if we try. Because if we really make an effort, if we really make the effort that we need to make, we can begin to see differences taking place in our communities and in our surroundings. So, Brother John, if you can hit that one, I'll catch my breath and get back with you.
So the treasury broke and they say that we need second jamming. So foreign countries really start migrating. They lose faith in the country, they say we gone down the drain. They say no more could we see happy times again. But the will to recover in my people like have confidence. Although many may seem to feel that I talking nonsense, but the majority of we decide we're not going to run. But now is the time to show we patriotism. For we country facing is darkest hour. So our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just get one more try, life would be much sweeter.
Yes, we can make it if we try, just a little harder. And this evening, we are going to endeavor that we continue to try to make it, to try to bring information to you that's relevant to the building of our, to the development of the country and the building of our Caribbean civilization. And because we as Grenadians, our country Grenada, has a role to play in the building of our Caribbean civilization. And to this end, one of the issues that we shall be dealing with has come straight out of a Caribbean policy that's been established by the CARICOM heads of government. So the topic for this evening, this afternoon, is NDC's vision for national development, COVID-19, and its cannabis policy. Now, to take us through this this afternoon, to take us through that conversation, representing the National Democratic Congress here this afternoon, we have the Vice Chairman of, or the Deputy Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, Mr. Kennedy Roberts. Good afternoon to you, Brother Roberts, and welcome to GEM FM and the Comfort Zone.
Thank you, Brother Pablo. It's my first visit on your program, and I hope it would not be the last, because I think it is important to have a medium of communication with the general public, and especially the Grenadians who live in the diaspora. And having this medium, using this technology, is really providing that opportunity to interact and to hear what is going on in Grenada, and to also hear what's going on in other places. So it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon and to have a frank discussion with you on this very important policies regard to health and our human development issue. So it's a pleasure to be here.
So I mentioned that you are the Vice Chairman of the NDC, but I know that you as an individual, you wear different hats. And even within the NDC, you have special responsibilities. Can you just share with your listening audience a little bit more of, you might expect that you're somebody who's very well known, but there's somebody who may not know who is Kennedy Roberts. As a while ago behind the scenes, we had Brother John trying to clarify, which one of the Roberts you really are. So for our listeners, for our viewers, can you just share a bit of information about Kennedy Roberts?
Well, the roots are in Petit Martinique. We were all born in Petit Martinique. My parents had 10 of us, and we moved to Grenada in 1965 when I was 3, because I'm number 9 of 10 kids. So when the bigger ones were in school in Grenada, it was easier for the entire family to move down to the mainland. So I grew up in Montparnasse. We moved to Montparnasse in 1970. So it's been 50 years now since I've been based in Montparnasse in St. George Northeast here. And the family compound, if I should call it that, my parents next door, my brother next door, my other brother next door, and so on. It's a very tight-knit family. I have to say I grew up in the revolution. During the revolutionary period from 79 to 83, I had the real opportunity to have been involved in different aspects, and primarily the experience of being the youngest diplomat of the revolution. I was actually 19 years old when I became the commercial attache in the Grenada embassy in Cuba. And to October 83, when I left to go to Barbados, I coordinated the technical assistance program between Grenada and Cuba. So almost everything that had to do Grenada-Cuba collaboration, except the military side of thing, was coordinated through the Ministry of Planning, where I was the coordinating officer. So during the revolution, I got the opportunity to work very closely with Morris Bishop, Bernard Code, and others to really make that contribution, as a lot of young people did at the time. I left Grenada, as I said, in October 83, just before all the action took place, and went to Barbados, where I did a bachelor's in economics at the University of the West Indies, and came back and worked in the Ministry of Finance and then the Ministry of Health, back in finance in various capacities. And I acted as permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health also in my 20s. I acted as the director of the Budget and Planning Division in the Ministry of Finance in 1993. That's 27 years ago. So I have a good foundation in the civil service, because when you function at the PS level, you need to understand the civil service rules, regulations, or financial rules especially. And then I spent 4 years in St. Lucia at the OECS Secretariat, where I was the health economist for the Eastern Caribbean. So I worked with from Antigua, St. Kitts, Montserrat at the time, just before the volcano, and of course the Four Windward Islands. We worked on national health insurance in Grenada when that project was in place in 95, 96. That's when I actually started the serious work on national health insurance in the Eastern Caribbean, with a specific emphasis on Grenada. And it is really ironic that 25 years later, I am still preaching the same message of the need to look at health, and well, we'll get to that. So I had that regional experience, which really benefited me, and then went back to Boston University and did a master's in public health. So I have a master's in public health from Boston University, focusing on international health. And when I came back to Grenada in 1990, late 1997, I started to work at St. George's University in September 1998. So I've been down at St. George's University for the last 22 years, where I was instrumental in establishing the Department of Public Health, where we offer a master's in public health and preventive medicine. We have now been accredited by the Council on Education for Public Health, and SGU has now one of the 5 programs outside of the US that is accredited, and I was very involved in creating and still teaching in that program, focusing on health policy, health management, health economics. So that is my background. That is, as I say, at SGU, that is where I have the opportunity to teach and to work with students, and that is where my passion comes from, because as a teacher, you need to be on top of the current things, and teaching health policy, teaching the medical students the US health system, and Medicaid and Medicare and Obamacare, and all these things have to. So health is my profession. Health is my background, and that is why in the little politics, I got involved with the NNP when I came back in 1997, 98. And because of my personal relationship with Dr. Mitchell, really had a hope that they were serious about our human development, our health. And after being involved with the NNP, up to the election in 2008, I actually was the candidate in St. George Northeast for the NNP. They lost office. I was in the Senate for the NNP for 2008. And in December 2009, I resigned for personal reasons, because I found out that, I was incompatible with the values of the NNP. I felt uncomfortable in their presence. I realized that the whole issue of health and social security, which I am very passionate about, was given scant attention. And what I would say, the papi show me, and yeah, everything can be cool. But then I realized that the programs, the policies, was not taken seriously. So I stood out of the political limelight from 2009, and then it was in the 2017 or 2017 that the NDC asked me to do a presentation on health and the economy at a symposium they were having. And I did that presentation and started to work closer with the party. For the 2018 election, I did a couple sessions with the candidates, and got involved on the platform for the party, because I found as a Grenadian it was against my conscience to sit down and see what was happening within the country and not say something. And especially with regards to health and human development, it really pissed me off to see how they were using national health insurance as a political football. And as I said then, and as I said now, they cannot implement national health insurance in their term, because they're not fully aware of what needs to be done to get a program like that implemented. So we're seeing almost 3 years since the last election, and they have not been able. Of course, they'll blame it on COVID, but that is a convenient excuse. But the reality is, what they're planning to do is not consistent with our history, our culture, and it cannot work. So I have decided to get actively involved with the NDC, because I felt that there was a commitment to people's development. As you know, my brother Vincent was the former chairman of the party. I have had very close relationship with a lot of the people within the party. And as a result, Brother Terry Moore, for example, was the director of planning when I was the young economist in the Ministry of Planning during the revolutionary period. So I've had a close relationship with him. And as I say, my blood gel a lot more with the policies and the principles of the NDC. And I decided that, I am now 58 years old, and I cannot sit back and watch my country go down the slope where we lose hope for our children. We have a situation that we need to contribute. So I hope this gives a thorough enough background. Of course, on a personal note, I've been married for the last 32 years. I have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and I have no grandchildren yet, but I am blessed in so many ways. That having a strong family support system is critical to doing anything, especially being involved in the politics.
Wow. Well, and now you here in your capacity as vice chairman of the party,
Right.
but in addition to that, you have particular responsibilities within the party. What as the spokesman for different things? What are these?
All right. Well, Sister Franca Bernadine, in her wisdom, she tried to put together a team of spokespersons for the various sectors, and I was asked to take on the responsibility for the area of health and social security. So the area is brought up, over the last several weeks, months. I've been around talking about various health issues. Was on to the point a couple of weeks ago with Blossom, and we're putting together a proposal updating the former manifesto of 2018 on the health dimensions, and pulling together our strategy for the whole health and human development, health and social security area. So this is an area that I can get into a little more detail and some more specifics, because some people tend to say, well, oh, you're all generalizing. What would you do differently if the NDC is given the opportunity tomorrow? And I want to reassure the general public and the world that the policies and programs of the NDC is clearly outlined. The area of health and human development is an area where we have clearly defined areas we're going to be focusing on. We have clearly defined policies that is based on evidence, and we believe that we are ready to implement programs, from the first 100 days to really make a significant difference in terms of the way we think about health, because we really think about health a lot about when we get sick. but health and wellness is something that we should be thinking about every day of our lives and trying to ensure that we do the basic things. So when I am going through this period in my life now where some of the basic stretches and exercises that I should have been doing all my life, I'm trying to do it now because the little back gate coming in, and my kids are telling me, it's not too late to get into yoga. It's not too late to start doing the stretches. And it's making a significant difference in terms of my mobility. I've lost some weight, and I'm feeling a different kind of energy that I want to see every Grenadian benefit from. So some of these simple things about how we deal with our daily lives and our concept of health has to be one of the main things that we're going to change. But as we progress in the program, we're going to talk about some of the very specific recommendations that and I should tell you, Brother Pablo,
Uh-huh.
I am not afraid, and the NDC is not afraid to outline proposals and plans that the NNP will jump and take and even take credit for, because the people of Grenada are not stupid. And we know that what we're saying on this program today, for example, I am hoping that our two ministers of health can listen and take up some of the ideas that we're going to discuss and implement it now, because it is never too late, it is never too early to implement a good proposal. So I am saying these things in the interest of Grenada, not to be partisan, to have NNC have an edge and we have a little secret that we coming out as a bomb. No, what I'm going to be saying is based on evidence, is based on best practice regionally and internationally. And I'm going to highlight the real difficulty of Grenada moving forward, and some of the impediments that we have to address if we really want to see long-term health of our population.
All right. Speaking of policies, uh, this program started the last Saturday in July. And since then, I've had Uncle Tilly, and I've also had the General Secretary of the party. And when he was here, that's Brother Glenn Noel. And when he was here, he indicated that the party was at the point of working on a cannabis policy. Then sometime late in September, we saw the rollout of that cannabis policy. We saw a press conference taking place. And since then, there has been various conversations taking place on that issue, which we'll get to shortly. But the question has been asked, why now? Why did the party find it to be a priority? And considering the fact that NDC is not in government, because in fact, there's a colleague of mine, an NNP supporter, and he said, the party, they're not in government, but they jump in and talk about marijuana policy, and they play a bad card because Dr. Mitchell is going to get the credit for that because he's going to make the move in front and go and do it. And there's a clip that I want to play a little later on as we get deeper into that conversation. But why was it a priority? Why did the party find it necessary to do this at this point in time?
Okay. Now, this is an interesting question because several persons have asked it from different angles, and they felt that, as you said, your colleague might feel it's inappropriate for an opposition party to be pushing this. Some people felt that there are other important issues that we could have highlighted. But sometimes you have to do what is right. And again, the earlier you do what is right, the better. Now, we realize that the whole region have been talking about decriminalization of marijuana for many years. It is not a new issue, but Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves from St. Vincent and the Grenadines was the one who initiated it at the heads of government level and said, listen, let us talk about it. Over the years, Dr. Mitchell said it over and over that it is not his intention to go in that direction. He is not going there as a matter of policy, and it was his policy position on the issue. Now, over the last couple of years, as Sister Franca took leadership of the party last November, there was an intensified move to review the plans and proposals of the NDC during the last election and develop a strategic plan that we can go forward. We said, okay, it's around a year and a half, 2 years since the last election. Let us plan and strategize. Let us build a team. Let us get cohesive. Let the groundwork be done. And although we knew that people are going to be complaining that, oh, they're not hearing us enough and they're not doing, Sister Franca was of the opinion that if you focus on strengthening your foundation, if you focus on your message, if you focus on certain issues that are important to the people, that can resonate with the people, we have to take action on it. So as the strategic plan developed, they came out that the issue of cannabis, marijuana, became one that was not just a issue based on what CARICOM's report said, but we saw it as a social justice and a public health issue. We recognize that the way in which we treat the issue of cannabis in Grenada and in many countries of the world over time, it was not fair. It was not based on science. It was not based on evidence. And as a result, the whole world has been changing their philosophies, their laws pertaining to cannabis. So we looked at the work going on in the region, and we saw that the CARICOM report has been presented to the region in 2018. And this government has not even had any dialogue, any discussion on it. And I'm into public health, and there were others on the team who felt that this issue should not wait for an election. It should be done now because it is affecting young people. It is affecting a lot of issues relating to the legal system, to people's self-esteem and to people's mental health, the criminal and violence dimension of it. And we felt that we need to take it to the public and demand from this government that they start the dialogue. Because we felt that, yes, election is 2.5 years away. We don't want to be waiting because we know that the government did not have it on their agenda as a priority issue. So we felt that if we put it on the agenda and put them under pressure, because we know that there are people like the Minister of Agriculture now who would be supportive of that move. And now he has jumped on it and they're drafting laws and so on. But again, our approach is not just to rush something to say, yes, we're taking the credit for it. But there are certain dimensions about the cannabis issue that must be discussed and understood, and there are complementary policies that must be put in place, especially with regards to children, with regards to mental health, with regards to smoking in public places. What is a public place? What is a private place? The ability to grow it for personal use in your home as you grow other fruits and vegetables. There are a lot of things that has to be discussed, and while we support the initiative that they're taking now, we're making it quite clear that they are doing it for political reasons, and we are proposing it for public health and social justice issues. And that is why the whole situation with the Regis family is such a difficult one to and it brought it into perspective clearly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking about doing things for political reasons, I want to have our technical operator, Brother John, play a clip here that I have labeled His Highness. And if we play this one, and it's just a couple of minutes, and we'll take the conversation on the other side. Brother John, His Highness.
It's an area that we have to examine, and maybe in a sense that while on our books we still have one smoking a joint of marijuana considered to be a criminal offense, we may have to examine to some extent that area of activity.
The Prime Minister spoke last week within the context of challenges that our court system faces in terms of an overwhelming number of persons who are within the system for offences relating to possession of small amounts of marijuana and the impact that has and the resource demands that that is placed on it, both within the court system and our prison system.
I'm not quite sure where the news about a change in government's position came from, because Prime Minister was speaking then last week primarily to the police force, and he was speaking to them about the priority areas that needed to be focused on, that they should spend time on those other areas instead of someone with a joint and stuff like that. But at no point did Prime Minister change his mind, and I think we have all heard him say that as long as, this under his watch, we wouldn't see. That's not something he's going to focus on. So I think we need to be clear that this is what the context for the conversation was, and not what has been reported for some reason.
Last July, government with the rest of the OECS region agreed that they will determine the path they will pursue based on the country's circumstances, based on the model presented by the Regional Marijuana Commission. All heads of government agreed that they will review the current status of marijuana as a dangerous drug with a view to reclassification, taking into account all international obligations. Prime Minister and Minister for National Security Dr. Keith Mitchell, at a town hall meeting in the south of the island on Tuesday night, announced that a committee is now set up to develop a bill that will determine the decriminalization process.
We have established a committee locally here to move in that direction and to take, and right now a bill is being prepared to look at our interpretation of how we go forward with the whole question of marijuana. What level of decriminalization we think that should take place within Grenada, how it is done, what do we allow, and what we would certainly recommend. That is coming forward, and of course the public would get information accordingly. But we are moving to decriminalize some aspects of the use of marijuana.
Brother John, I see you shake your head with the last part of the clip. And I saw Brother Roberts, a smile came to his lips, because here you have, just a couple months ago, our Prime Minister making a public statement that the police need to focus its energies on dealing with serious crimes rather than penalizing people over a joint. But that is not a policy. For government to establish a policy, they have to there has to be an official pronouncement, and then they will take a bill to Parliament and whatever. No, that was a couple months ago. But if you notice, almost immediately afterwards, 1 week afterwards, you had his spokespeople, people from within his government and his press secretary, saying that's not what the Prime Minister was speaking about at all, and that under his watch, that is not going to happen. But now you see, just recently at a town hall meeting, the point is being made that since last July, CARICOM heads of government took the decision to move forward on the recommendations coming out of the Marijuana Commission that had been set up by CARICOM heads of government, which was referred to earlier on by Mr. Roberts. Now, if the Prime Minister knew this then, how is it that just a couple months ago you could have his press secretary still saying that under his watch that is not going to happen, and then now just a couple months later you're hearing that they have set up a committee and so on? What's the message that is being sent here? What are we to conclude from these mixed messages that we're getting, Brother Roberts?
Well, Brother Pablo, it is clear for everybody to see. And as I say, there's no one as blind as those who cannot see what's in front of them. That's the truth, and Dr. Mitchell is showing a discomfort in even just talking about it. You could hear that he's not comfortable with it. You could hear that he's saying it because he doesn't have a choice now. He realized that the people have indicated in many polls and in different ways that they support the whole concept of decriminalization of marijuana. He realized that he has held it back for long enough, and because the NDC has come forward and recommended it and advocating for it, and the CARICOM report was in July 2018. July 2018, and they said nothing about it. We're saying it in 2020, and they're having a problem. But the reality is they recognize that this is an issue of social justice. This is an issue not about people get paranoid about it going to affect our people and they'll get crazy and it's a gateway drug to cocaine and so on. All these things have been clearly shown that it is not consistent with the research. And as a result, we have advocated it and they don't have a choice. However, let's only wait and see the approach.
Now, two more things before we move from that topic. One, there are those who say that as small island states like ours, and given the way the world economic platforms are set up, that we are not likely to benefit in any significant way economically from that. Now, the other element of this is you say that research and so has been done. Can you distinguish for us, because the picture that many people get in their heads when you speak about decriminalization of marijuana, and I'm pronouncing the word decriminalization because our prime minister seemed to have a difficulty with really saying the word decriminalization. You know, you didn't get that word coming out of him. If you listen to the clip, you didn't hear him saying decriminalization.
That's why I said he wasn't comfortable talking about it.
The whole issue of CDB as against THC, because the picture that many people get into their heads when you speak about the whole marijuana issue, the cannabis issue, is a man with a joint in his hand, right? And as against that background, you have some people are very averse towards a move like that. What do you say to these people? And then scientifically, we see that there's explanations distinguishing between what we call marijuana and the hemp plant, because the hemp plant, which is the one from which it said that you get the full content of the CDB or CBD, whichever one it is, I don't really remember. You are going to correct me on this one. It's a different. There is a difference in the
Content.
the chemical structure and components of the two plants, and you're seeing that there's a wide variety of products that are made from the hemp plant. Can you just give a little bit on that, on these two things before we move off that topic?
Well, the reality is this whole issue of marijuana can be seen at totally different levels. You talk about the economic benefits, and some people saying that we can't really benefit. But the reality is there are a lot of direct and indirect benefits by decriminalization. First and foremost, the mere fact that the criminal justice system is not putting a lot of resources into hunting down a fella and as we saw recently, shooting somebody for having a spliff and running away, not saying, well, okay, they're running with a spliff. But anyway, that's another.
That's another.
So the cost,
yes,
the reduction in costs for is one thing. At the same time, right now, our laws and so that prohibit the use and so of marijuana is not effective. And as a result, the amount of foreign exchange that leaves the country and goes to St. Vincent and elsewhere, that is going to be a saving on the country also. Then you ask about the composition of the THC and the CBD. Now, there's a lot of tons of information out there on the internet that gives you the difference between the THC is the one that gets you high, and the CBD is the one that is extremely therapeutic. It's good for, they say, all sorts of ailments and so on. And that is the one that is basically legal throughout the US now. You can go in Miami in stores and buy the CBD one over the counter without even asking a question. But the THC one now is the one that has a lot more controls over it. And in many states, about 27 states now have decriminalized it for medical purposes and recreational purposes, and more up to this last election a couple of weeks ago in the US. Several other states have, including Utah, and so have given the decriminalization. So it is happening not just for the CBD and the medicinal value, but also from the THC, because again, the THC component is the one that also is recognized to deal with pain and nausea and a lot of people who are going through chemotherapy and have the bad feelings, that they realize instead of using the the chemical cannabinoids, as they call it, is the THC has the natural cannabinoids, and as a result, they're recommending marijuana as a way of reducing the pain and the nausea associated with chemotherapy. They're seeing it in terms of so many aspects of health. So the reality is, we're also recognizing that there is a negative impact on the developing brain and persons who have other health problems that can lead to psychotic problems. So they're acknowledging in the research that people who have other health problems and who have a history of psychosis and other mental health problems can have a negative effect under certain conditions. And again, they also show that children being exposed to marijuana in a regular manner over time can have some negative effects. So we have to balance the THC and the CDB and how we use it. And the final thing you asked about is about the hemp. And the hemp plant now is again, when you look at the research, you see that is the one that doesn't have the THC in it, and they use it to make rope and clothes and other lotions and other things. So again, the research is out there now, and you have to look at the geographical space we have and what is viable to do in different ways. But the approach that the NDC is recommended in terms of cannabis and so on is one where it is blended in with our culture. It is one where we take into consideration the history, the religious nature. The Rastafarians have their groupings in a structured way in Grenada, and facilitating that and ensuring that the community tourism aspect can be blended into it, so visitors to Grenada doesn't have to go in a central market and a pharmacy to get it, but in the communities where you have the Airbnb and so on, people can mingle with the community and have a structured approach to the blending of the decriminalization of cannabis with other aspects of our society. So it's not just a one-shot thing to pass legislation and have a bill, but to see how it is blended into other aspects of our system.
Well, yes. But before we move over this one, I want to tell all you, and I want to say here, that I have known as a child, I have known people who've been suffering with asthma, who've been suffering with epilepsy and so, and the marijuana healed them. I know people in Guave right now who the parents didn't have no problem getting it from those who they know been planting it. And that is what, if you see these people today, these people are adults, and you never know that these people were epileptic as children. And I have seen it happen. I experienced it. So I know it is a fact. I know it is real.
And a lot of people have similar stories, my brother. It is not, and historically, some of the older folks will tell you they saw their grandparents smoking it and being part of it. It came here after the indentureship with the Indians and so on. And it was a practice that a lot of people, especially the older ones, saw in their younger days. And up to now, people still boil it for different purposes, asthma and so on.
Well, as you say that, I know people who have these conditions, and they would always be checking local people to get me some root, and because that is what gives me the relief. The pharmaceuticals are not working. And prior to, you mentioned Ralph Gonsalves earlier on, Prime Minister Gonsalves of St. Vincent, as being the one who took the matter to CARICOM. And I remember him saying, so we need to put the emotion and whatever outside, outside of that. And listening back then, prior to him doing that, listen to him speaking in St. Vincent Parliament. I remember him speaking of people that he knew personally that had certain conditions, and that was the only thing that would give them the relief. The pharmaceuticals were not working for them, and he knew of these people. He was the prime minister of the country. Marijuana was still illegal, But anyway, that conversation can go on indefinitely.
Definitely.
And let's get on to other things. Just this week, we saw first a posting on social media from the NDC's hierarchy. We saw the chairman of the party, well, the general secretary, he spoke first. And then we had the political leader speaking and indicating that she has resigned from the party. The general secretary had indicated that
she didn't resign from the party. She resigned.
No, she has resigned. Sorry, from the leadership of the party. My bad. Yeah. From the leadership of the party and from being the caretaker for St. George's Southeast constituency. Now, and then she spoke, and then the chairman spoke. Subsequent to that, we saw a press conference the following day, and that has been a major talking point throughout the nation since then. Can you add anything else to that? And at this juncture, can you tell us what kind of impact is that likely to have on the party? Is it good? Is it bad? What's the good things that you anticipate can come out of that? Or what kind of negative impact, if any, is likely to be as a consequence of that development?
All right. I want to start by giving my personal gratitude to Sister Franca. I want to tell her how much she inspired me and gave me the energy to do a lot of things, especially in this last year. We have to acknowledge that people have to be honest to themselves and be able to make hard decisions, not just in their interest, but the interest of the country. Sister Franca made it quite clear that her doctors, and she have a couple kids that are doctors. They have told her that this stress of being the political leader is taking a toll on her. And she had to make that decision. As we know, last Tuesday, her mom celebrated her 100th birthday. And I guess when these significant occasions occur, it gives us an opportunity to reflect on our own realities. And she made the hard decision because we all know that the whole country rallied around Sister Franca and saw her as a mother of the nation that can help heal and bring together a team to move us to another level of stronger people's development. We saw her genuine understanding of not just the education system, but also the health system, the people-oriented programs. We heard the passion in which she spoke. Her policies were clearly defined, and she knew what her objective was when she was Minister of Education, and she was not blinded by other things to sidetrack her, but she focused on an approach of involving people. I like to proudly say that I got some of my management training from the same Manitoba Institute of Management that she received her training. And that Manitoba Institute really emphasizes the importance of teamwork, the importance of building a common understanding, a synergy among team members so that you can get a lot more out of the team than you can get out of people individually. And Sister Franca tried to pull us together and showed us the importance of that organizational management, teamwork, team building component. So we know that the Grenadian population saw her as pulling together a team, and you know, in the last couple of months you might not have heard her as much, but she was doing a lot on a daily basis that might not have been out there as much as it should be. However, we really appreciated what she did in this last year as political leader. At the same time, we have to understand the culture of the NDC as opposed to the culture of the NP, which has a one man in charge, and he's in charge, and that's it. The NDC has been an organization that has really used the resources of a lot of people and have been able to get persons to be involved in the party based on the principles and the philosophy of a people-centered approach to development, to an approach that is based on accountability and transparency, as Uncle Tilly used to say, and to show that we must have people in government and in governance who and Pablo, you know the Singapore model, the MPH model, focus on meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. That is what Singapore was built upon. And these are some of the principles of the NDC as a party and an organization. So when it comes to a leader, we know the history. We know how Nicholas Bradford came into the party as a leader. We know how Uncle Tilly didn't plan to become leader of the party until that convention when he was given that opportunity. We saw certain changes in the party. Brother Naz has stepped aside, and Brother Andel was the interim political leader. He did his part and handed over to Sister Franca. So now that Brother Persuada, as our deputy political leader, has stepped up into the position as the interim political leader, we now have to give him that same level of support and encouragement as a team, so that we cannot predict that he is going to be the one moving forward. But at this stage, he is the one in position of responsibility. And he already has been talking to us about the need to pull together, review where we are. And of course, with his unique style, he's going to put his touch onto the strategic plan that we've been working on. So as he said in the press conference yesterday, within the next few weeks, as early as next month, but early in the new year, we will be outlining some of the specific things in the strategic plan. And of course, within that, health and social securities is going to be playing a major role in terms of the future and the focus of the party. So we're not too worried about the reality that Sister Franca has to deal with. You know, we believe that God is in charge, and you know he's going to create the opportunity, because what is happening, Grenadians are fed up of this current administration. People are talking from all angles. We see Dr. Mitchell, he turned 74 the other day, and he's tired. Doesn't have that energy to do what he used to do 25 years ago. So we know that Grenada is looking for a different type of leadership, one that provides information and communicates with us in an honest manner. Look, the whole oil and gas bamboozlement last election, national health insurance, so many things that they talk about that is not in the interest of Grenada. Look at this airport loan now. Are you crazy? So they know that they're under pressure. So they're going to put their spin to this, but the Grenadian people are ready. The NDC is putting the final structures in place, and as the different constituencies move to identifying a candidate, I think the people of Grenada are ready. And we just have to ensure that we get registered and we get documented so that we can exercise our right when the time comes. But I believe that the NDC is strong as an organization. It has strong plans, strong principles, and we're going to move forward in this new situation. And everything that in life happen, you have to use it as an opportunity. So the party is going to build on this, and Brother Persuada is going to play his role, and we're going to move forward, and you know, let's see how things evolve.
Now, since the elections of 2018, this is the second interim leadership period that the party is experiencing. And we saw that Nazim Bok, he resigned sometime in June of 2018. And it took us up to November 2019 to get a leader. 1 year afterwards, you're in that situation again. And given the fact that it has to go to a convention to determine who the next leader, the elected leader of the party is going to be. And the convention, to establish the date and the time period for the convention, you first have to go into a general council session. What do you anticipate and how long do you think it's going to take before we get to that point as to who is the elected leader of the National Democratic Congress?
Well, the General Secretary indicated yesterday that we're working towards having a General Council in the first quarter of 2021, because this 2020 was a year where we are still under conditions where it's difficult to have a General Council at a constitutional, based on the Constitution, because you can't have the number of representatives from each polling division and constituency coming together and have less than 20. Which is the number that they're talking about now for gathering. So we're hoping that as we go into the new year, we might have to be more creative to have it in a different location where people can spread out more and we can get special permission and so on. But the bottom line is we know that while working on the issue of leadership, we have an interim leader in place, and we are going to continue the work at the constituency level, and we're going to be even more aggressive now with this new reality to put out the plans and programs of the party and make people realize that we're not just talking in a vacuum and waiting and hoping to get in government to decide what to do. We're coming up with clearly outlined plans and policies that would take the country forward. We're recommended to the government that take some of them up now. So the issue of marijuana, for example, yes, go ahead and let us make some progress on it now. But we are going to be out there, and the people already know that the NDC is the one who is pushing it, and we're the ones who brought it up, and we're the ones now who are going to continue to ensure that it is done in a manner consistent with best practice and social justice and public health and unique to Grenada.
Okay. Now, when the press conference took place, it was posted on Facebook, and there were a host of comments. I want to share some of them with you here. Some were quite favorable and supportive, and you had some coming from, as expected, from the party's detractors. I want to get some short answer responses from you here on some of them. One says NDC is done. I hate to say KCM will win again. How do you respond to that?
Well, the NDC has the 40% support from the last election and a growing support from the rest of the population. And once we come together with a team that will include people who have the common vision, we're going to deal with that reality. NDC is strong.
Another person said, but the party has been struggling to release or publish a well-defined agenda. The evidence of this is crystal clear. How do you respond to that about the party not having a well-published or well-defined agenda as against the ruling administration and their agenda and the way that they function?
You know, the reality is everybody tend to say the opposite. NDC documenting too much plans, and they have too much plans, but they can't implement it. But given the opportunity to be in government, the plans, even the 2018 manifesto, is not just ideas, vague ideas, it's specific things. And as we're coming out, as I said, we have been working on our strategic plan, and it's been finalized as we speak. So Brother Persuader is going to be outlining certain things, and the NDC is ready to continue governance of this country on day one.
Someone says the party's motivation just isn't strong enough to catch or woo lots of supporters and the undecided. If you take a simple walk around into lots of villages and speak to people, or also listen, you would hear the very same sentiments. And most time is what or how the NDC going to chart a way forward that will make them want to come on board? What is the NDC going to do differently? And
Well,
what's
the whole communication campaign needs to go to another level, but the plans are there. We're putting the structures in place for the caretakers to play their role, and very soon, once they work on at the constituency level picks up, the national leader is going to evolve, and as we work towards the next convention, the leadership issue would evolve, but the work at the constituency level is the focus now.
um, this one I would like you to expound a little more on. The NDC also need to promote Tevin, Ron, and other young leaders to the forefront. They are energetic and full of ideas to make the party more attractive. It's time for meaningful leadership and no talk shop. Put the young ones there and back them up, you, the older ones. Now, that apart, I would like you to share a little bit more on the whole issue of youth involvement and youth participation in the politics of the country, given the fact as to when you were introducing yourself, you indicated that you were still a teenager when you assumed certain very responsible positions within the then PRG administration. How do you see youth involvement and youth participation in our political leadership circle going forward?
Well, Brother Pablo, you're hitting one of the nerves that really excites me and keep me involved in the political forefront. I have tremendous confidence in youth. I believe, and I've said it over the decades, that when people say youth are the future, I say no, youth are the present, because we can get them involved presently a lot more. And by saying they're the future, we're really making an excuse for not involving them. So I believe it is important to involve youth at all levels, first and foremost. Secondly, we have a lot of youth, a lot of young people who are working at serious levels, not just in Grenada, but in the diaspora. We have some talented Grenadians who are at the top of their game, working throughout the world, and a lot of them in Grenada who are not involved politically at all because they don't like to see the tone of our politics. They don't like to see the divisive nature of our politics. And a lot of youth are saying, get a clear message on how you want to move the country forward. Get a clear message on how you're going to involve people in the process. Get us to show in a genuine way some of the talents we have and how we can contribute to nation building. And we have to attract these persons to step forward by creating that environment of openness and willingness to listen to them and get them involved. We have to recognize that we have institutions like TAMCC and the St. George's University, UE, that we have a lot of energy that we're not tapping into. And I believe that the leadership makes a big difference. And in the NDC at the last election, the youth were very involved in the campaign. You mentioned Tevin. Tevin is the caretaker for Caribbean Petit Martinique. How much higher should he go at this level? He recognized that he's upgrading himself academically. He has a young family. He's growing and he's involved. Ron was and Karine were in the Senate. They are young people. Brother Ron is still actively involved in the constituency and on the management team. So he's involved. But we need to also attract other young people and build that critical mass because they're in the majority. So we have to get them to recognize the importance of registering. We have to get them to contribute. So we have to create that environment that allows them. So that's where the use of the technology comes in and really try to get them excited about something. But we have to listen to them and try and work with them, not in a pappy show manner to just say, well, okay, I'm doing something for youth, but in a genuine way where we can see that long-term growth and development.
Final one, the short version. Vina Zimbok is the obvious choice for the new political leader. I hope he realizes that his country needs him. And someone else said, I couldn't agree with you more. I just hope that this request will be extended to him and that he'll be able or willing to respond to this call to serve.
Within the base of the NDC, Nazim is loved as much as any political leader could be loved. But we have seen in the last couple elections that the NNP has demonized him. We have to ensure that we have a leader who can generate that support among the non-NNP, the non-NDC supporters, and the NNP and the independents among us. I believe that we have moved on from Brother Naz, and while he has a serious role to play, I believe that our look for a leader, we have to work with Brother Persuader now, and I believe that we have to move forward, not backward.
I want to get to now to a comparative analysis between the NNP and the NDC, which essentially is what voters need to do in order to make an informed decision as to who is best suited to manage the affairs of the country. To do that, I want to play a clip, if my technical operator could have it lined up there for me, a clip that I call, how do I call it? We Different. So if Brother John could play We Different, and we take the conversation on the other side.
That's what makes us different from the rest. That's why when we're in opposition, we don't spend our time just maligning people and cussing people. We go out and help people. This is COVID time. Instead of some people come and help every day, they're on the radio cussing people. Now, how does that make you a politician? Cussing people? Well, see, cussing will get you vote. More you cuss, more you get in no seat.
How do you respond to that? And what is the difference in terms of management style, the way how one party treats with the management of the affairs of the country as against the way the other one treats with it? How do you respond to that and the claim of the Prime Minister that all NDC does as an opposition is to malign the leadership, the party, and the government of the NNP?
You see, sometimes the truth hurts. And when people speak the truth and you denying it, you will say, okay, they're trying to malign you. But in recent years, the party has been very focused on the future. And yes, you have to criticize the government, but the whole of Grenada, the whole of the world know Dr. Mitchell. There's nothing more you can say about corruption and history about the Banderanti and the stabbing in the back of Herbert Blaze and all these things. Everybody know that already. So it's no use going and focus on these things. We know about the diamond factory, the shrimp factory. We know about all the different con men that came and Citizen by Investment Program and, call centers. And the people of Grenada know all that. So we're not going to be focusing on that. And Dr. Mitchell is going to continue saying that because he's using that as a defense. But the party is different in the sense that we are focusing on people. When you look at the last 25 years and look at our health and education system, this is like the clearest indicator that they're not focusing on people. When you look at the amount of youth who are unemployed and they have to put in the Imani program, it shows that our school system has failed us. So the difference between the NDC and the NNP is going to be a focus on people, a focus on the social wage, as they call it, health, education, social services, the relationship with people, bringing back the love. Look at the anger and the tone in which he was making his presentation. You see that this is a person that doesn't show the love for his people. He thrives on dividing and rule. So he will divide you and then give you a fish to eat, give you a little something at a personal level and get your support and malign. And he's the one maligning what they've done to Nazim Burke. Look when the guy got this opportunity to work at the Commonwealth and what they did to him. This is the sort of things that makes people want to stay away from politics. But the thing is, Grenadians are at the stage now where we realize that we have to move forward. And once we can get a leader who can command that respect at the national level, and Dr. Mitchell and them is going to be pulling down at anybody. Look at the approach historically, and we know that this is going to be the approach in the future. But we are confident that once we continue our work to get people registered, once we continue to put that message together, once we continue to show a united approach to moving forward, once we have to acknowledge that we're different and we have different roles to play, and we have to show the teamwork and the synergy among us, I believe that the Grenadian people will ultimately give the NDC the opportunity to move this country to another level, because the current status quo is not working at all.
He mentioned that we in this COVID-19 period, and this ties into our general, the state of health and so in the country. How would you rate the handling of governments, the way that the government has handled the COVID-19 situation thus far? And we also see that recently the Minister for Tourism was in the public domain, I believe, at a town hall meeting, and she was blaming the locals. In fact, she is quoted as saying that, you know, we need to, the people need to more or less being responsible for the country not having the opportunities in tourism, that they're threatening the tourism product. And so what level of community spread have we had to justify such comments from the parliamentary representative for St. Mark and the Minister of Tourism? What is the status of that?
I didn't hear her comment on it, but from what you're saying, you cannot blame the general public for something that relates to COVID. This last ship that was supposed to come here a couple of weeks ago, people expressed concern that, you know, the nature of COVID right now, with the increases in the US and so on, it might not have been the best time to start it. So despite the reality that the taxi drivers and the vendors and so want a little income, this at the expense of what? The cost of COVID. We see when one person goes out of quarantine, the economic impact that has on the economy. Places that the person visited had to send home workers and so on. The cost of contact tracing and so. So the people who have expressed concern, you have to realize there's a spectrum of beliefs. They have some that believe that COVID is not real, and especially when you look at what's going on in the US and so on, there are a lot of people on their dying bed with COVID who do not want to acknowledge that they're dying as a result of COVID and their behavior, and they're still denying that it is real. We have some in Grenada who are paranoid to the other extreme, that they're sanitizing everything, they don't want to go outside, anybody come close to them, they're putting on masks, and they're at the other extreme. But we have to go based on the science. And we have to acknowledge that there are certain things that a country must do to ensure that they minimize the risk, because you can't eliminate the risk 100% once the borders are open. Once you have people visiting the country, coming into the country, you're going to be exposed. And not only coming in at the airport, but what the yachties are doing and coming in through the seaport. We have to make sure that the structures are in place to address it. And this is a global thing. So our requirements is not unique to just Grenada, but most other countries have similar requirements. So the enforcement of that, the whole consistency with the Ministry of Health implementing this code, it's a disaster. You know, you're hearing so many stories. The way the government is leading this approach, we're very lucky and we're blessed to not have any deaths and more cases. But the approaches are very ad hoc, vai from early. They have not been consistent with a model and approach to implement. You have people calling the Ministry of Health to follow up on the tests and so on, and the difficulties to get that done. We're seeing persons coming in and not given the armband bracelet to monitor their movements, because again, the people who they got to do that is a supporter that get a blind rather than
Well,
somebody that in the industry, so that,
reportedly they're not doing that anymore.
well, they're
So
not.
are you essentially saying that when the minister says that people's reckless behavior are stretching Grenada's capacity to the maximum, the health workers, the police, the private security, and this misbehavior is creating even more hardship to the persons contracted by to the persons contacted by those persons exhibiting reckless behavior, and identifying workers in the tourism industry as being particularly affected, that this could essentially stop flights from coming into the country and affect cruise tourism. Are you saying that she's not justified in making these assertions as to the impact of the people locally? Because what elements of the confirmed cases so far have been from community spread as against people coming into the country from outside?
But very little, because the most recent cases are imported. I understand there was one community case based on the two doctors that were charged this week. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there was one community case relating to the other guy who came in and was in St. Andrew. But generally, we have not had other community spread. All the other cases that are directly related to the border, the two in
So
Carriacou.
these comments and these assertions and so on, these accusations are misplaced to them.
You see, the thing is, the whole approach of this government to COVID is really about law enforcement and power rather than science. So when they make these statements, they're saying, remember Carnival time when they were making all the statements that people shouldn't do that? Really and truly, in retrospect, we should not have opened up our borders the first week in August. If we had no COVID in Grenada, maintain our borders, let the people have their carnival and do something, because it shows that yes, jab play and people came out in their numbers and we didn't have any community spread, because the virus cannot be spread if you don't have it. So there are certain things that we could do differently. When we look at St. Vincent functioning normally, they just had an election campaign where they had political meetings,
Thousands of people
you know,
gathering in, yeah.
but
I was
but
following it. I see them on both
but
parties.
exactly.
Both
But
both
have they
parties
had the
were having.
community spread? No, they haven't had that community spread element. So we have to realize that striking a balance and making sure that we continue educating the public on the basics. Because despite COVID, the basic washing our hands and keeping good sanitation and good hygiene and thing is critical, not just for COVID, but for life. So we have to continue our messages and use the opportunity to promote other healthy messages, to encourage people to live a healthy lifestyle, to exercise, to stretch, to have that love and respect, to deal with your mental health, and all these other health messages that we at times have difficulty to transmit. Now is a good opportunity. We have people's captive as a captive audience, so we need to promote health a lot more.
Okay. Speaking about health, how would you say that, what are some of the indicators you see that have come to the fore as a consequence of COVID-19 as to the state of our health services? And what are some of the recommendations that you would make or the party would make in terms of how we deal with our health situation going forward?
Pablo, I believe that the biggest problem with our health system now is the motivation of our health workers. I am convinced that our nurses, our doctors, our environmental health officers, our nursing assistants, our pharmacists, so all health educators, all categories of health workers are at their lowest level of motivation, because for several years you've had a leadership that is not knowledgeable about what needs to be done for health. You know, you might be knowledgeable in selling cars, but not in terms of our health system. So we have not had the leadership and the governance and the direction and the vision for our health sector. On the contrary, we've had situations where our prime minister has been disrespectfully making comments about our health workers and how they thief in everything in the hospital. We've seen situations where our nurses are leaving in droves because the conditions under which they work are atrocious. You know, we had a recent study just come out showing that 90 plus percentage of Grenadian nurses would leave if they're given the opportunity. But another interesting research not long ago also show that a lot of them would stay if conditions are different. So first and foremost, I think that the conditions of our health workers need to be addressed seriously. Secondly, the delivery of healthcare or district health services, the focus on primary health care. We're not hearing a word about what's going on in our district health services. On the contrary, they're closing down health centers and medical stations. They're boasting about a new physical structure in Guav. But what is a physical structure if you don't have the workers to work and provide quality services there? If you don't have medication and you don't have other complementary things to deliver healthcare services. So our health workers, then the quality of services and the type of services we deliver, both in our community and in our hospitals. Then don't talk about how we pay for healthcare. The amount of families that are going through difficult times. You know, when we see even the young Regis chap that got shot there, they have to look externally and ask people for support to deal with his medical expenses. The state should have some mechanism, especially they're the one who shot him for having a marijuana spliff in his hand. They should be ensuring that the quality of care he received would bring him back to a level where he can function in his previous capacity as a swimming coach. You know, we have to see private families going through all sorts of sacrifices to come up with money and go through all sorts of embarrassing circumstances to beg for support to deal with our health system. I believe that the way in which our health system is financed has tremendous room for improvement. And while we've been talking about national health insurance for 25 years, we have to look at a way of doing something that is unique to Grenada. We have to start by understanding what are the health problems that affect us and how are we going to approach it and what activities you need to deal with that and what is the cost of doing it. We have resources that we can tap into regionally and internationally that we can use much more efficiently. We have the things that affect our health status is not only within the health system. So when you pay for accessing care, you're paying at what we call the downstream aspect of health, where you're sick. We have to see how we can invest in the upstream things to keep you healthy. How do we invest in your workplace health, in our school health, in our community health? How can we work with other stakeholders to address the provision of care so the cost out of pocket is less? How can we have just over 100 doctors in Grenada? That is not even a small hospital in many countries. How can we negotiate with these 100 doctors to provide care to our population without the population having to pay them out of pocket when they're accessing care? So there are models that we can look at that can really improve the delivery of care, motivate our workers, and reduce the out-of-pocket payment of our people. When we look at our pharmaceuticals and medical supplies and the needs that is another thing. When you look at the information system and the management systems and how you gather data and how you use that data for evidence to come up with policies, you're not seeing it. So, Brother Pablo, what I'm telling you is that unless you understand how the health system works, unless you understand the components of the health system and how they relate to each other, unless you understand the importance of your health workers in getting that system to function efficiently, unless you get the people to have confidence in utilizing their district health services, where access is guaranteed and the quality is of a high level where you feel satisfied that going there would make you better. This is a mindset that the NDC is going to be promoting for health. and health is not. We see the two separate ministers now, and one of them is into the painting and the cleaning and so on. This cosmetics is okay, but that is not what health leadership is all about.
Um, in order for NDC to bring all of these policies to fruition, it therefore means that NDC has to get into government. Now, for this to happen, we have to have free and fair elections. There are those who have serious concerns about the manner in which our electoral process and our parliamentary elections office is being treated with. The whole issue of the representation of the People's Act and some of the amendments. In fact, I believe that there is going to be, not I believe, on the 9th of next month. Yes, let's see if I have the date right. Yeah, on the 9th of December, that's a Wednesday at 9 from 9 a.m. at the UWI Open Campus on H. Street, which we locally call Marisho House. There is going to be a session organized by the civil society organizations where they are going to be looking at the representation of the People's Act. So those people who are interested in that kind of thing, you can go to that event. It starts at 9 a.m. in the morning. And the intention is to have some workshop sessions and coming out of it to have a working document that can be presented to the various stakeholders, including government. Because after the last two elections, there's been some recommendations from those observers that visited with us, and there's concerns that these have not been taken aboard. In addition to that, there is an article, or there's a document that was put out by the civil society organization that was chronicled on a Facebook page. And I just want to share with you and to share with our listeners and viewers some of the concerns that have been raised. It says that, okay, now there is that site of the Parliamentary Elections Office, www.peogrenada.org, and where you are supposed to get all of the information relating to registration and so. But what we're finding is that there's another portal, www.gov.gd/register to vote. And on that site, it advises citizens of Grenada how they can register to vote. And it also, the site also states that the information, no, that information was published on the 19th of November 2019 and updated in January. But the PEO site has not been updated for quite a while. The other thing that you're finding is that there is still another site, www.infinitygrenada.com/voters/registration card. And when you go to that site, you're seeing that it is a licensed company, which is a local and escrow agent and international business services operation. And they specialize in immigration programs, post-immigration services, and corporate and international business services. So essentially, they are servicing people who deals with the CBI component of citizenship, okay? And without a reliable election process, the chances of gaining government is almost non-existent. Now, before I allow you to respond to that, I want to play a clip because let me play the clip first. All right. If brother John Calise can line up for me that clip that says true or false, yeah, because we see that comments have been made um, not so long ago, as regards that situation. And so I want to bring that to the public, and I want you to give your perspective on that. What is the party's position on that issue? Because that is a critical element of our election process and the outcome. So if Brother John can just play for us that this one that says true or false is a very short clip, and I feel is instructive for us to hear, the different perspectives that you get on that issue. So, Brother John, yeah?
As nationals, as citizens, and they could vote and change the political landscape. Again, I don't know where that comes from, because when you get citizenship under CBI, you don't have voting rights. So, when these kind of information go there, you tend to believe that there's a political overtone, which is unfortunate.
Okay, so there you have Senator Christopher D. Ali saying that citizens, people who become citizens, according to their investment, according to the CBI program, that they are unable to vote. But when you go onto the site that I mentioned a while ago, the infinitygrenada.org, and if you put in the link that I just mentioned a while ago, you come onto a page that says application for voters registration card. And on that page, it says Grenada Parliamentary Election Offices, PEO, issues voter registration cards to citizens of Grenada at its constituency offices. All right. And there are two columns. On one column, you have the requirements. And it's interesting to note that the first thing that's at the head of that column is original citizenship certificate. And after that comes official birth certificate and passport. Now, these are the requirements they're speaking about to be registered as a voter. Original citizenship certificate. Now, how does one get a citizenship certificate? If not by birth? And here, because we're speaking about people's ability to register and to get access to a voter registration card, which essentially puts your name on the voters list. Speak to that, Brother Kennedy.
First of all, I have to recognize that the electoral office will do what they want to do. And despite the fact that we've, as a party, have spoken to them, we have an actual committee who working with them and back and forth in many different ways, because we're trying to take a professional approach, writing letters and asking questions and so on. At times we get conflicting information. And for Senator Diali, who is the chairman of the CBI program, he should know better. And for him to be saying that, is it that he's not aware of what Infinity is promoting out there? And these are some of the little things that needs to be clarified. In the last election, in the south of St. George, they had a lot of names on the list that was not consistent with local names. We have to recognize that this is one of the realities we have to clarify and address. However, that is why we're asking everyone to go and register. That is why we're asking people to go out there and recognize the importance of being able to cast their vote on election day. Because the support has to be so overwhelming that those who register in St. George Northwest or from St. George Northwest and register in Thomas St. George and St. George Northeast, that would not have an impact as it has had in the past. And we have to ensure that we put out a message to get Grenadians to convincingly make a decision that enough is enough and we're changing this government. So while I understand what they're doing and the ambiguity, the uncertainty in what really are these people able to vote or not, and the quantity of them, with what impact that will have on the outcome of the election. These are issues that we are currently discussing and working and trying to clarify. And it would be interesting to hear Senator Dially's comments on what Infinity is putting out there, because they're implying that once you're a citizen by investment, you can be registered and get a voter's ID card. So we need to clarify
So
that.
essentially, then because once you're registered, your name essentially will end up on the voters registration list, because that is how you have to. That's the process for getting a voters registration card.
Definitely. So this is one of the specific things that we have to clarify, because you're hearing conflicting positions, but um, this is something that on the front burner.
It's on the front. Okay.
Yeah, we have a committee working on that actively and dealing with all these electoral issues.
Yeah, because
it's important.
One has to be careful with these issues, because we saw that from the time Dr. Mitchell took office in 2013, we saw the issue with the then supervisor of election, with her being instructed to have the server under the Prime Minister's office and so on. And these are some of the questions that are being raised, because the article that I was referring to, it also questions the independence of the office of the supervisor of election. It also says that the people who are managing these pages that's referenced, that I mentioned, apart from Infinity, that it's on the gov.gd website, and the technical people are people that work, that work within the Prime Minister's office, and so how do we ensure that these issues are going to be above board, and there is going to be that that level of clarity, and there is going to be that level of accountability, so that we can say that we have had a free and fair election? How do we ensure that that we are at that stage going into the next election?
Well, we have to be vigilant. We have to be monitoring the voters list when it comes out. We have to do the canvassing. We have to know try and recognize who are the names, and zero into be able to determine what is happening. Because the thing is, you have to work from a position of information. If we see that, okay, these CBI people can vote, and I will double check with the team to clarify that question. Because if it is not, what Senator Dially assume is true, they're saying, well, okay, these people can't vote, then okay, then they can't be registered. And however, if what he's saying is not true, then we have to continuously monitor and ensure that we do what we have to do by getting people to come out, register, and get the support. Because we know that this government will try all in their powers to retain power. That's all they're interested in, power. But we have to try and work diligently to make the people aware of what is going on, and put them on the back foot, and let them explain these issues, because Senator Dially should know definitely whether these people are being registered or not. And we just have to continue monitoring and do what we have to do, and take necessary action as appropriate. But for now, we just have to continue to be vigilant.
Now, recently we heard an announcement, or it was mentioned, I believe, at one of those town hall meetings, that the fire services headquarters is to be relocated to Dusty Highway. How how um how important or how workable do you see that to be, and what is the party's take on that situation?
Well, again, these decisions should be based on evidence. So, for example, if you have a little analysis of where you tend to have most fires, and it says it's in the south and this and that and the other, and you're relocating because you have the space down there, it's easier to move because, as you know, the congestion in St. George's is one. But then you have to look complementary at other parts of the island to access it easily. So having a base at Dusty Highway does not necessarily mean that they might not have one on the Caranaz still and say but these sort
But
of
what was
decisions.
what based on the information, they're speaking about relocation. So which means evidently that there wouldn't be a fire services center at the Carenage anymore.
Well, the thing is, you're never sure about what this government is doing because they're so secretive about what they do. They don't have the dialogue that is open and transparent to do proper analysis of these things. But let us hope that the move is based on some merit. I don't know the details about it, and these sort of details. I'm not sure if it is available to the general public to do any analysis of it. But again, those administrative technical things have to be looked at as to what is the rationale. And it shouldn't be done just because we should move, but there should be some rationale in terms of access, utilization, ease of movement. A lot of factors should be taken into consideration when making these decisions. So off the bat, it's hard to say is that a good thing or a bad thing because it has to be based on some sound rationale.
Okay. Um, I know you have indicated that you would like to get off by 4 o'clock, and we have just a few minutes remaining. And there's been a lot of talk about the loan for the airports and so on. What is the party's position on that airport loan? And in addition to that, we see that while the present Minister of Finance has been saying that financial allocations are expected to be reduced in most ministries, we seeing we heard recently at one of those town hall meetings, the minister responsible for youth disclosing that her ministry, which is placed under the office of the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is the minister responsible for youth, um, that they will be getting an increase. Can you speak to these two issues
You see,
before we close, please?
the issue of the airport, the party actually did a article on that last week. So
Uh-huh.
the article last week addressed it in some detail. And the bottom line is, do we really need a loan like that for the airport project when there are so many other needs throughout the country? Look at our roads. Look at how are we going to pay back for this? I believe, and former Attorney General Jimmy Bristol said it earlier along. There must be some bubble going on behind the scenes. There must be something going on that they want to have some access to resources for the next election. So they're pushing that project. The other issue about the Chinese giving these loans, knowing that the countries are going to go through difficulties to repay it. I understand that is one of the problems that they had with Ms. Williams, the former manager, or the current manager. She's still on leave, because she was not supportive of that Chinese loan. And we have to ask the question as to, is it in the best interest of the country? And most people would acknowledge that no. But again, when you're in power and you have 15-0, you feel you could do anything. they have the feeling that they can get away with anything, and you just smile with them. You could box me and I will say thanks. This sort of mentality that they can do anything they want and people will just have to accept it. But I believe that the Grenadian people are fed up. We're at breaking point, and we just waiting to see what this government is going to do in terms of this next election. And the NDC just has to continue to remain focused, stick up, keep our eyes on the ball, realize that winning an election has to do with winning the constituencies. And winning the constituency mean you have to be on the ground with your people. We're on the ground. We have a little function in Hermitage this afternoon in Salim's yard, that we're going up to in a while, and mingle with the folks up there and realize that we just have to continue doing our work on the ground, building the confidence of the people, having clearly defined programs and policies that would make a difference in the lives of our people, to create jobs and opportunities that would be sustainable. And I believe that the party, just as we're going through this little hitch now, Sister Franca's health is critical to her having a quality life, and we understand the reason why she has to make this tough decision. But we look forward to the continued support of the people of Grenada. We look forward to the support of the private sector, the NGO sector, and Grenadians, especially in the diaspora, to make a contribution and step forward and play a part in getting this country to another level of development, where human development takes priority over physical infrastructural development.
Okay. So were these intended to be your parting comments, or do you want to say anything particular in closing?
Well, I think looking at the time, it's tight, but just to conclude by acknowledging that in my responsibility as spokesperson for health and social security, working with a group of people, and we're pulling together a team in a more cohesive way to give that direction and guidance for our health sector. We believe that this is a critical missing link in our development process, and the NDC is committed to paying tremendous attention to the area of health and social security to bring our people to a next level. The management of COVID is something that we see as critical to again, open up the economy and to functioning as we should. The world is moving towards a vaccine, and let's see how that progresses in 2021. But the bottom line is there's a lot more we can do to improve the quality of lives of the Grenadian people, improve the management of our health system. And I believe that the NDC is well poised to play an important role in the future of governance of this country. So,
well, I want to say thank you for taking the time off to be here with me, for accepting the invitation to be on the comfort zone. This is your first time, and as you said, you hope it would not be the last. I too hope it would not be the last. One of the other things that I hope to is that, remember I spoke about our COVID-19 essay competition for St. Mark early on. And I'll be reaching out to you guys with the hope that you all will be able to make a contribution towards.
But on that point, you have to also ask not just for monetary contributions, but I think if you get some people to be mentors to some of these young people who are writing these essays, and have a resource where they can call and talk to somebody. So sometimes the support that is needed is not just give you money to say, well, okay, go and buy something, but you link them up with a person that they can work with over the next 6 months or the next year to help them in their personal development. Look at some of these opportunities as also prizes for these young people.
Well, that's the next level, because as I said, the COVID-19 essay competition has been set up as a platform, the foundation on which to build going forward. Those students who would have participated in that, as I said, last week, Friday was the deadline for submission. Right. So they would have had teachers working with them in terms of preparing their presentations. But the whole issue of personal development, the whole issue of access to internet access, the access to the facilities, because we know that going forward, that IT component is going to be a more integral part of the education process. And we know that during the lockdown in particular, teachers had the responsibility to send out some of the some of the tasks and so to the students, and the participation and the response was not very favorable. And it's because many of them either do not have internet access, or they do not have appropriate handsets or handsets at all. As the principal of one of the schools said to me, some don't even have electricity. So the whole issue of having a facility of that nature and having something like that will provide the opportunity to get into some of the things that you are speaking to. But
Excellent.
presently, we have given that commitment that the participant will be rewarded in that way. So
Okay.
we are looking for the assistance that we require, and we'll be reaching out to you.
No
So have a
problem.
good evening.
Thank
Enjoy
you for the
your Monday.
opportunity, and
Yes.
best of it.
All right. All the best.
All the best.
Brother
And good.
John.
And Brother John, it was a pleasure linking up and seeing you and chatting with you.
Most definitely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mm,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I just want, this one. He said something. Just wanted to ask you about when you,
Okay.
with Nas there. You said something to the effect that we want a leader that is not being attacked in a negative way and will not see in a negative light. So we kind of, like, in a sense, that kind of to have that. Is that one of the rationale why you don't going back to Nas because of the attacks, the negative attacks on him from the
Well,
NPP?
that is a dimension, but I think the crux of it is we have seen how the fact that Peter and Chester, who were his comrades in NDC, came out and vilified him. I know I've been criticized for saying this publicly, but I grew up with Naz and I know Naz for long, and I have nothing personal against Naz. But as a politician, I saw firsthand what they did to him. And if Naz comes back as a political leader, Keith and them will just laugh and they're just coming out. You see, he want the money, he want finance, he want this, he want that. And it is going to put a pressure on the party to step up and deal with the issues. Because
Is that
Keith
what
and
we're
them,
talking about? I mean, like, executive leadership should be coming to the defense of their leader, and
yeah, yeah,
police should be
and
to protect that leader and to attack the opposing force who attacking their leader in a way so that they could still have the leader up front. 'Cause he have, I mean, under his leadership, still even though he lost his seat, I think he's a stolen seat twice, that was stolen from him by electoral fraud. I think that's my opinion. Um, that the vilifying of him was not true, and we know that as a
I
fact.
agree.
So that's the narrative we have to push as, and I say we, because I'm still, even though I don't have a way in a yellow shirt of being Grenada to vote for NDC, I'm still a supporter of NDC in one sense, right? But
Right.
our narrative should be pushed that Naz is the right person, and despite what they're saying is wrong. I mean, look at what during the PRG time, you know that all the fight against Grenada, we were still pushing that Grenada Eurovision was the best thing for the Grenadian people, and you know that we've been there. We support Eurovision to the hill as young people, students. We student movement, the NSC, the NYO. We support our leader. We march in
I
solidarity with
agree.
leadership. So why can't we do that for Nas?
Because we did it. And what happened in 2015? You see, the thing is, as I said in my comments, Naz has tremendous love and support from NDC supporters.
Right,
But
and that's the
but
thing.
you see what has happened is how do you get the rest of the people? And my brother, we can go on and on but as I said, I believe in going forward rather than backward, and it would be a much more difficult task. And I saw, based on the results of 2013 and 2018, it will make it a much more difficult. So as I said, I believe that NAS has a role to play, and I'm saying this publicly. And again, I've been in plenty trouble because people say they will never support me. I say, I have a job that I love doing, and I'm not looking for a job, so I don't have to be a candidate. I don't have to be a member of parliament to contribute to Grenada. I am doing this because this is my passion. This is my love, and I can see the Grenadian people needing to step up to a next level. But I am not going to bullshit and hide from the reality that while Naz is a good person and while he has played his role, even in St. George Northeast, if he was winning his seat convincingly, and yes, I agree with you that they stealed some Northwest people coming to Northeast, and it was proven, but it should have been an overwhelming victory because Tobias was considered one of the weakest candidates in the NNP. But and we know Tobias didn't win the seat. Keith came out and people supported Keith. So again, what would be different in the next round? No matter how much we stand up and defend Naz, we will be just working hard to defend Naz rather than promoting the vision of the party. So I believe that we have to move on.
Finally, just think that collectively, the efforts, because not the only person that lost the seat, but the collective effort would have been more, to me, positive in the sense that as an executive body supporting and putting structure in place to help promote the leadership and also the party by not just seeing Nas but seeing the leadership and the party itself, the party policy. So that will surround and rally around the leader, but the policy of the government as a party must take center stage and saying, look, despite what they're saying about our leader, this is our policy as a government or a party, and that's what we're going with.
Right, and that is what is being said now. This is exactly what we're saying now. The policies of the party is clear. So even though Sister Franca has resigned, the policies are there, and we now have to attract that individual, because that individual leadership is critical in our politics regionally and in Grenada specifically. And unless your leader can't really get the national support and people rallying around him or her, we can have that difficulty. So again, I've been through a lot of analysis from all kind of angles, and I respect your position with regards to Naz. I respect people's views, but I have to also be frank and reflect the views of a lot of Grenadians that Naz didn't defend himself last election. There were 15 individual campaigns rather than a united campaign at the national level. And the sort of thing that Peter and Chester and so did to him, is unfair, but it would be a challenge.
A lot of comrades have pushed Nas under the bus for the personal reasons. I mean, I could talk about a lot of it.
Right.
But, it's not we got time for it. But Nas, in one way or the other, has been victimized by the very people we're talking about.
Exactly.
They know the truth, and they use their I won't say narrow-mindedness. I say in that point, to vilify him. And
But that's politics.
yeah, and that's it.
They say that is politics.
Look at what he was with three houses. I mean, when he
But did he defend himself adequately?
yeah, and then, but like I said before, we have to take it collectively, not just Nas, but the executive, the party had to come to his defense too. I mean, we can't look up to him to just speak. That's why teamwork is about, not the I thing, and collectively, you have to take that approach, not just Nas defend himself as a leader.
Listen, in this last 2018 election, I went on the campaign trail with Naz throughout Northeast and in the national meetings. And I stated it clearly, the records are there to show I defended Naz, and I said it, I believe that he's the best option for Grenada at that point in time. The people of Grenada didn't feel the same way. They reflected it not just in St. George Northeast, but throughout the country. People would tell you, well, Tevin didn't lose in Carriacou because they didn't vote for Tevin, they voted for Keith, because Keith made the election in every constituency about Keith against Naz. And that is why I said going back to Naz as our leader would not motivate a lot of the people that we want come to support the party.
Okay. Finally, I just saying that under his leadership, NDC have won more votes under his leadership, and that would be a collective effort again too, right? That more votes was won under his leadership. Would that be a fair statement to make?
You mean the popular vote nationally? Um, I'm not 100% sure, but generally every election cycle, the number of votes increase. So the last person, obviously, look at in the US now, they not just passed 70 million, Biden get 80 million votes. And that's why President Trump saying, no, 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 that must be unfair. That must be something wrong. But I believe the turnout would, so you see, again, we have to be objective in our analysis. And I think we can analyze over and over and over the last election and the reasons why not the party lost so badly. But I believe we have to go forward. We have to show a team that has a lot of differences and show the Grenadian people, a leader in particular, who they can resonate with. And that's why I gonna miss Sister Franca so much, because she was that person that I believe had that national appeal to give us that extra edge. But, you know, God is good and somebody will rise. All right. All right, it's a pleasure again. And we'll
Okay.
keep in touch.
All right. So that puts an end to the program for this afternoon. I want to say thank you to all those who joined us, those who would have shared the light, and so on. And I look forward to you joining us again next week, right here on the Comfort Zone. Thank you once again, Brother Kalis, and thank you again, Brother Roberts. All the best.
All the best.
All right.
Get out of your comfort zone. In life there will be challenges, testing whether you weak or strong. So don't let obstacles deter you. Just shake up yourself and move on, I tell you. Out of your comfort zone. You know that life is a mixture of the good, the bad and ugly. So don't stress yourself over issues that won't change your reality, I tell you. Out of your comfort zone. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have greatness in you. Yes, you have greatness in you. I know that you have greatness in you. Oh, oh, you have greatness in you.
Us there and enjoy the music for this afternoon, some para music for this part of the evening. So again, be enjoying this radio station, share it with somebody else. And if you doesn't have the computer at home and you have a cell phone, you can download the TuneIn app, and on that app you can do first gmrfm.ca. All right, have a blessed evening, everyone. God bless you and make you a blessing. Pablo.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right.
See you. Talk to you later, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
all
man.
right. One love.
Talk to you later.
What we gonna do right here is go back. Way back. Back into time. Who that?
At this point, we'd like to introduce a very promising candidate.
DJ Johnny.
Wagwani friends from Tobago, Christmas they reaching Fat Meadow, with a box piece and a quattro, a violin and a banjo. They say they always had a plan to give me family a parang. They make up my mommy right away when they ring out with the flag wing. My Jeffrey, oh, get up. Hey, like you are here, the neighbor come crowing, oh girl. Madam Jeffrey, oh. Time to put on smoke in the kitchen, oh girl. Madam Jeffrey, oh, wake up. them to stay a little longer. I'm on bread on the table. Why don't you pull out the bottle? The music went in my neighborhood. The polio sat below his bed. Come across and join the bacchanal. They wouldn't stop singing at all. My Jeffrey, oh, get up. Hey, you were here, the neighbor come crawling. Oh, girl. Madam Jeffrey, oh, get up, get up, get up. My Jeffrey, oh, wake up. Time to put some smoke in your kitchen, oh, girl. Madam Jeffrey, oh, wake up. I hope you know it white oak taking, oh, girl.
If you see your neighbor while shopping in Trevor, hush your mouth, hush your mouth. You smell through the cake burning, same time Santa was passing. Hush your mouth, hush your mouth. Every little thing you hear, everything you see to do. I don't know what is wrong with you. It's only shoo shoo shoo. Hey, I'm feeling to put something in your mouth. I'm feeling to put something in your mouth. You're only talking, it's only running.
All right, folks, again, this is Gem FM. I'm your host, the Sheriff, yours truly, John Kellis. I hope you do stay along and enjoy the music. And tonight at 8 o'clock, we're back Talking Point Part 2 tonight. Yes, and again, God bless you. Have a wonderful Saturday afternoon. See you later, and God bless you and be with you. Amen. One love. Sonia Martin Scott, good afternoon to you again. Thank you for being around here and being up with us right through at every show. Nigel John, good afternoon to you again. And keep it. Rachel John, again, good night to you, for good evening, wherever you are. This is Gem FM. I'm your host, the Sheriff, yours truly, John Kellis. I'm out of here. See you later. Stay tuned. Listen to the radio 24 hours a day. Don't quit. Don't leave. All right? It's always good to have you with us.